Anyone else? Word for word. Baho Bhayaha. From the arms. Avatata. Generated. Satram. The power of protection. Satriyaha. In relation to the power of protection. Tat. That. Anuvrataha. Followers. Ya. One. Who. Jataha. So becomes. Trayate. Delivers. Vanan. The other occupations. Purushaha. Representative of the personality of Godhead. Kantakaha. Of disturbing elements like thieves and debauchees. Satat. From the mischief. Translation. Thereafter, the power of protection was generated from the arms of a gigantic Virat form, and in relation to such power, the Sastriyas also came into existence by following the Satriya principle of protecting society from the disturbance of thieves and miscreants. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki. As the Brahmanas are recognized by their particular qualification of inclination towards the transcendental knowledge of the Vedic wisdom, so also the Sastriyas are recognized by the power to protect society from the disturbing elements of thieves and miscreants. The word anuvrataha is significant. A person who follows the Sastriya principles by protecting society from thieves and miscreants is called a Sastriya, not the one who is simply born a Sastriya. The conception of the caste system is always based on quality and not on the qualification of birth. Birth is an extraneous consideration. It is not the main feature of the orders of the divisions. In the Bhagavad Gita 18:41-44, the qualifications of the Brahmanas, Sastriyas, Vaishyas and Sudras are specifically mentioned, and it is understood that all qualifications are needed before one can be designated as belonging to a particular group. Lord Vishnu is always mentioned as a Purusha in the Vedic scriptures. Sometimes the living entities are also mentioned as Purushas, although they are essentially Purusha Shakti, Parashakti or Paraprakriti. The superior energy of the Purusha, illusioned by the material potency of the Purusha, the Lord, the living entities falsely think of themselves as the Purusha, although they actually have no qualifications. The Lord has the power to protect. Of the three deities, Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara, the first has the power to create, the second has the power to protect, and the third has the power to destroy. The word Purusha is significant in this verse because the Sastriyas are expected to represent the Purusha Lord in giving protection to the Prajas, or all those who are born in the land and water. Protection is therefore meant for both men and the animals. In modern society, the Prajas are not protected from the hands of the thieves and the miscreants. The modern democratic state, which has no Sastriyas, is a government of the Vaishyas and Sudras, and not of the Brahmanas and the Sastriyas, as formerly. Maharaj Yudhisthira and his grandson, Maharaj Parikshit, were typical Sastriya kings, for they gave protection to all men and animals. When the personification of Kali attempted to kill a cow, Maharaj Parikshit at once prepared himself to kill the miscreant. And the personification of Kali was banished from his kingdom. That is a sign of a Purusha, or a representative of Lord Vishnu. According to the Vedic civilization, a qualified Kshatriya monarch is given the respect of the Lord because he represents the Lord by giving protection to all the prajas. Modern elected presidents cannot even give protection from thief cases. And therefore, one has to take protection from an insurance company. The problems of modern human society are due to lack of qualified brahmanas and Kshatriyas and the over-influence of the Vaishyas and the Sudras by so-called general franchise. Srila Prabhupada ki. First, I'd like to offer my obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and my spiritual master, and ask for all the blessings of the senior Vaishnavas in the room today, that I can say something of use. So I've entitled today's class, from today's verse, "The Blind Leading the Blind," is what we're seeing in today's society a lot. In today's society, we have the blind leading the blind, and we have leaders with very little qualification leading the masses. I was even speaking to a southerner out there just before class, and she was even saying in today's society, no one even wants to follow. So we're in a very difficult position. As we just read then, Kshatriyas were the ones who gave protection from the thieves and miscreants, and these Kshatriyas were advised by the Brahmanas. Now in today's world, we just have presidents, such as Joe Biden, who's not qualified, and he's listened also to unqualified men, and then we have people who just don't want to follow. So we have a very confused, spiritually confused society. So in today's world, it's very topsy-turvy. Everything's on the decline. Those who have read the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, you can see that decline. It's mentioned there. We don't have the right knowledge. We don't feel protected. That's a big thing today. No one feels protected. Even the animals, back in Vedic times, were very much protected. The cow was worshipped. I was talking about this, I think, 2 classes ago, how much the cow was respected and worshipped. Cows were often in family photos over in India, so they were part of the family. But in today's society, they're just part of the dinner plate to fulfill our own misdirected desires due to lack of leadership in today's world. So that asks the question, why is there so much suffering and lack of direction, protection, spiritual understanding, Krishna consciousness? Why is all this lacking in today's world? And it comes down to lack of leadership. So everything's moving at a rapid pace in this material world. Technology is advancing, everything's getting faster, everything's getting bigger. We're planning trips to Mars. I think Elon Musk is going to Mars in 2026. And I was watching a documentary. Has anyone ever heard of Thomas Merton? So he's a Trappist monk. He was an American Trappist monk. He actually read Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita and done a little presentation on it. He was very favourable. But he has this quote which I wanted to go through today. So Thomas Merton said, "What can we gain by sailing to the moon if we are not able to cross the abyss that separates us from ourselves? This is the most important of all voyages of discovery, and without it, all the rest are not only useless, but disastrous." So what is the point of sailing to the moon? What is the point of anything we do within the material world if it's not based on self-realization? Thomas Merton then went on to say that the endeavours will be useless and disastrous. And this is what we're seeing in today's world. We have no sastrias, like these great kings giving protection to the society, and no brahmanas which are passing on this spiritual knowledge. So we are sailing to the moon. We are completely intoxicated by materialism. We are hurting each other. We are hurting all those upon this planet. And this is due to this lack of protection, misdirection, and poor leadership. And in the age of Kali, things are getting tough. It's difficult to rise above all of this and to free ourselves from these chains of bondage, the confusion and the misdirection. But we have hope to free ourselves, to put ourselves in a good position and to be good leaders and to give protection. And I was listening to a class the other day by Srimad Bhagavatam Keshava Maharaj, and he was talking about the misdirection of society, the misdirection of the world, and the lack of knowledge that we have as a society at large. And he was talking about the Bhagavad Gita. And he was talking to, I think it was all college students. And he was saying that we can look for knowledge in all kinds of books. We can look for direction in all kinds of books. But if one just reads the Bhagavad Gita as it is, it covers everything. If we have a question, you can find it within that Bhagavad Gita. So when we have that grand understanding of the way how society works, how the world works, how we operate, our relationship with the Lord, it puts us in a good position. So he goes on to talk about the 5 subject matters which the Bhagavad Gita covers. Does anyone know the 5 subject matters? So first of all, it talks about Ishvara, so the Supreme Lord. Then it talks Prakriti, so the material nature. The Jiva, the living entity. Kala, time. And Karma, which is the last one. And material natures, I think there's around almost 100 verses about material nature in the Bhagavad Gita, so how to get free from material nature. So Srimad Bhagavatam Keshava Maharaj went on to say, if one understands all these topics, these 5 topics within the Bhagavad Gita, they can get a clear understanding of who they are, their relationship with the Lord, their relationship with material nature, with time, and then they can understand the environment they're in. Then they can put themselves in a position to lead others, which is so lacking in today's society. So by understanding this, we understand ourselves. Without understanding ourselves, we're completely ragdolled by the material energy. And that's what we're witnessing in today's world due to this lack of leadership. So it's all about spiritual behaviour, sadacha. Without endeavour, we fall victim to following the blind. We're thinking, what should we do? Who should we follow? Most people don't want to follow, like we were just talking about out there. So in today's society, we're following, who are we following in today's society? Celebrities, so that's a big thing. People are going on Instagram, on TikTok, and they're worshipping certain celebrities because they may look a certain way, or they have a certain amount of money, or drive a certain car. Who else do we worship? Influencers. So on TikTok, making little videos. So that's what everyone's driving for these days. They're just they're looking at their leaders as these kind of people who are just getting that quick fame. But are they the people we should be following? If we follow them, where are we going to end up? If we follow them, how are they going to make us feel? If we follow these people, where are we going to end up? That's the big question. Where are we going to end up if we follow these influencers or famous people, rock stars? Their life can look very appealing, full of glitz and glamour, rainbows and unicorns. But does it bring a blissfulness, a compassion, a love, a kindness, a gentleness? So there are many great examples in the Srimad Bhagavatam of leaders and leaders that we can follow, leaders that we can get inspiration from, and we can embody and bring that into the material world. So there's a story of a great king in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Ranti Dev, and he was fasting in the forest for many, many days. It was around 40 days he fasted for. It was getting very brutal towards the end, but he was fixed in his austerity. And when it came to the end of the 40 days, a great feast was provided for him and his family. Maha Prasadam, all the greatest preparations you could think of. I would like something like grunga potatoes, but they would have these extraordinary preparations back then, I'm sure. And he was looking at it, and just when he was about to enjoy this prasadam after fasting for 40 days, a brahmana walks out of the forest. And he invites the brahmana over, and he feeds the brahmana very nicely. But there's still some prasadam left, so he's okay. And the brahmana goes off. Then another man emerges from the forest, and with him is this pack of dogs. And he walks over to Ranti Dev. And Ranti Dev also offers him and all the pack of dogs prasadam. Now things are looking pretty measly now. There's not much left. It's stated that the only thing what's left now is some water. So Ranti Dev has a little bit of water. Then all of a sudden this crazy man emerges from the forest. And being the man that Ranti Dev was, he offers all respects. He has such a kind and compassionate heart. Even after fasting for so long, even after struggling so long, even after enduring so much, he still had so much compassion, kindness and gentleness within his heart. He offered obeisances to this crazy man who society just pushed to the wayside. Society didn't want anything to do with this man. But Ranti Dev welcomed him with open arms and gave him a little bit of water that he had remaining. That little bit of water was just enough to keep Ranti Dev going until the next offering came through of prasadam and water. But he gave it away. And as he was giving that water away, he prayed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He prayed to Krishna. And this prayer is, it's a road mark for all Vaishnavas. It's a road mark for those who want to be great leaders. It's a road mark for those who want to inspire others while here within the material world. Ranti Dev goes on to pray to Krishna, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My dear Lord, I don't pray for elevation into the heavenly planets. I don't even want any of the 8 yogic mystic cities. I don't even want them. I don't even want to pray for liberation, mukti. I don't want any of that. None of that interests me. I just pray. I pray that life after life, and no matter where I'm born, that I'm in service to you. That's what's important to me, that I'm in service to you. And this service is done through what we're seeing here. Ranti Dev's been fasting for 40 days. He's weak. It's difficult. He's out in the weather. He's on his knees pretty much. And still, the only thing that he has in that moment, he's willing to give to others in service, to give this Mahaprasadam to those who came to him. And this is the heart of a great leader. We see leaders in the world today, the ones that we follow, the movie stars, the rock stars. What are their hearts really like? What are their lives really like? How do they treat people? How do they treat the people around them? So these are the true leaders, like Ranti Dev. And at the very end of this, the demigods revealed themselves. The Brahmana, the man with the dogs, and the wild man at the end, they were actually demigods. They were playing that part. They wanted everyone to see the heart of Ranti Dev, the devotion of Ranti Dev, the leadership of Ranti Dev. It also goes on to say that all of his kingdom, everyone was a devotee of Krishna, a beautiful devotee of Krishna, just due to his leadership. So this made me think. We think about Ranti Dev being the great leader that he is, leading by example. And an amazing thing from this story is what I just touched on a little bit a minute ago, is that he was under a lot of strain in that moment of his life. It was difficult. He was so hungry. But still, he had the heart, the compassion, the gentleness, the kindness to be of service to others. So this is a real leader. So as devotees, we should always be trying to be leaders here within the material world, because it's lacking. There's so many youth, so many misdirected people. Like I was just in Rishikesh with Indra Swami Maharaj, and there's thousands and thousands of Westerners going to Rishikesh to get some kind of spiritual top-up, they're trying to extract some kind of nectar, to get some kind of realization. But they're actually all just very spiritually confused people. Because in Rishikesh, there's also lots of spiritually confusing activities taking place. And there's so many confused spiritual people because lack of leadership. That's what it all boils down to. So as Vaishnavas, we're in a very good position because we have such good examples as Ranti Dev, Yudhishthira Maharaj, Parikshit Maharaj, these great kings, these great leaders. They led by example. They had such kind, compassionate hearts. So that gave me a bit more of a realization. I was thinking more, and we should look at our own lives. If we're in a position to be leaders, if we're in a position to inspire others, we should look at our own life and what's coming out of us when we get squeezed. Ranti Dev was getting squeezed by the fast he was doing. He was getting put in a difficult position. But what came out was kindness, love, compassion, joy, and an open heart to serve others. So we should meditate on that in our own lives. If we want to lead others, if we want to see a better world, if we want to see a more compassionate world, it's up to each and every one of us. So when bad things happen to us, when we get put in negative situation, when it feels like the waves are against us, or when we're getting held down by the whitewash of the ocean, what's coming out of us? There's that analogy. You see many New Thought authors talk about this, but also Radhanath Swami, Swami Bhagavan Keshava Maharaj, they've all spoke about it. When you put an orange under pressure, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out of an orange? Orange juice. Were you about to say orange juice? Yes. So orange juice comes out of an orange. So when we're put in a difficult situation, what comes out of us? We've got to always remember, as devotees of the Lord, or as leaders, or people as ones who people are looking to. What's coming out of us when we're put through the strainer, when we're squeezed? Because that's who we really are. That's what's inside us. We can always put on a show. We can always put the best foot forward. But when we're under pressure and when we're squeezed, just like Ranti Dave was, that's the truest part of who we are. And that's what people are looking at. So if we're squeezed here within the material world, if we're put under immense pressure, what's coming out? And if you're under that pressure and you still have love, compassion, kindness, gentleness, people are going to look to that. People are going to be inspired by that. And that's what the world needs today. Leaders with these kind of hearts. And if we don't prepare ourselves in this way and become strong, fixed up. I was hearing a story the other day in a class. And does anyone know, this was said by a sannyasi, does anyone know how many tornadoes come through one's life? So how many disturbances? How many times do we get put under the strain, under the pressure? I hope not. That's a lot, 1 million. So yeah. So it could be 1 million. It could be definitely 1 million. Keshav Maharaj went on to say that one gets 4 big tornadoes in their life, so to really stir things up. So we've got to be prepared for those, and we get prepared by following this path of Krishna consciousness. What other leaders can anyone think of within the Bhagavatam? What lead by example? Any great kings? So Parikshit Maharaj, he was also a great leader. He was a great leader. You see, in today's world, we have leaders, and they've got like 100 bodyguards around them, and even those bodyguards can't protect the leader. You still see leaders get shot, attacked. But Parikshit Maharaj, he was such an exalted personality that he always had Krishna protecting him. And we see that when he was in his mother's womb, he had Krishna's protection. And when the 4 sinful activities were really starting to rise upon this planet, he actually took a tour of this world. And he came across a very sinful man beating a cow. And he said, whoever causes living entities to suffer must fear me everywhere and anywhere. So this is the great leader of society. And not only was he a great protector of the people, but he also had a great longing for spiritual knowledge. We all know the pastime, that's how the Srimad Bhagavatam started with King Parikshit. So I'll open up the floor now for people to talk, or any realizations in their own life or their own Krishna consciousness. I don't think we spoke about today. Anyone? Sean, any realization? No?
I guess I've heard it's really great class, very thank you. Ranti Dave, I guess putting everyone before him in that situation, like because they're willing to serve right to the line. And then I've also heard that before we can save anyone else, we need to save ourselves. But
for sure.
Part of my mind was just wondering then how to rank all those two.
So we think of Rantidev. So Rantidev's a great king of Vaishnava, so he's a very exalted personality, so he's able to do that in those times. So that's a very important point. So, and that's part of becoming a great leader. So we've got to have a great foundation ourselves, otherwise we're just going to fall to the wayside. So how do we create a great foundation? That's through following the process of Krishna consciousness and what Prabhupada's put down before us. That's why I mentioned the Bhagavad Gita, the 5 topics within the Bhagavad Gita. When one understands them, when one lives that, then he's in a position to start giving more and more of himself. You know, if you see, what is it? So if someone's drowning and you can't swim, you go out to save them, you're just going to drown yourself. So you've got to be strong within yourself. Then you can put yourself in a position to help others and be a leader. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hare Krishna, thank you for that.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry, I was nodding off. I don't know what happened. I just thought, you know, we need to find that shelter where we can, you know, trust. So I thought maybe you could say something like that. Like I was thinking on the you know, Srila Prabhupada's books are here for 10,000 years. That's where we have to take shelter of. So I thought maybe you could speak something about that.
About taking shot of the books?
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada's books. You know, because that's our authority. That's where we get our shelter. Like, you know, we can't find it in a person that has all these qualities. We can find it in Srila Prabhupada and his books.
Well, what's the one quality left in the material world? Truthfulness. And why is truthfulness still remaining? Because of the books, right? Srila Prabhupada's books, so these Vedic knowledge. So 10,000 years, these are the books that we're going to look to for our guidance. These books, for those who are new to Krishna consciousness, are no different than Krishna. They're like the light here within the material world. They can give one direction. They can give one comfort. So yeah, we should definitely take shelter of Srila Prabhupada's books. Definitely.
It's like relay.
I think for many of us, before we come across Krishna consciousness, it was really hard to find a leader. We didn't. We had people we thought were leaders, like to say like sports stars and movie stars and rock stars and those kind of people. It wasn't until we heard about like Srila Prabhupada or the Chaitanya, the Goswamis, Krishna himself, and then all these great things, we got an idea of what actually a leader is. And yeah, I think it's, we're very fortunate that we have such examples, especially Prabhupada. He is someone that was just here, and his life is an example of. Before he came to the West, was an example of Rantidev. He was one who lived like that. Giving his time and energy and wealth to anyone and everyone. So I think at least we have an example, and to share that with others, and you see when we do come across new people and we talk to them and we explain who Prabhupada was, they're amazed also. So it's great to share these examples of personalities.
Very fortunate. And that's why it's so important to share Krishna consciousness. There was a letter I was reading last night of Srila Prabhupada. It was in December 1972. And Srila Prabhupada was saying, even if you just preach to one person a day, that's enough. It doesn't have to be these big, massive programs, but if you just tell someone about Krishna to one person a day, that's a huge thing. So So we're very fortunate that we've got contact of someone like Srila Prabhupada and those who have walked before him who are great leaders of this world. And by following these great leaders and their example, then we begin to take on similar qualities, and we can also be great leaders. There's that verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Vestasava Bhutanam, what chapter is that? One who is, goes on to say, one who is a friend of all, one who is not envious, one who is equal both in happiness and distress, one who is self-satisfied. So these are great qualities. These are the qualities of a great leader.
It's interesting to bring up this topic of leaders and qualities and things like that. And obviously people in this day and age, they look at people and they think, oh, they have this quality, they have that quality. But according to the Bhagavatam, it says, they have no good qualities. even if they're adept at the practice of mystic yoga, and the honest endeavour of maintaining their family relatives, just hovering on the platform of mental speculation. And all these persons you mentioned, like celebrities, what are they doing? They're just presenting mental speculation. No authority, they have no solid reference. Just what they think. And some of them are engaged in pretty abominable activities. And you see what's happening in the world because people are following people like that. The world is steadily becoming more and more degraded because they're following these degraded people. But if we can become, qualified devotees, we can become good servants of Krishna. Then as it says, Yashasti Bhakti Bhakti Kinshana, we know all good qualities of the demigods.
Thank you. Anyone else? Or one more at the back.
Lastly, on the same topic of the leaders, sometimes like on Facebook we have also some inspiring quotes. So one of the things that I remembered about leaders is that they lead from the front. So they show the example, and also they give credit where credit is due. Because sometimes we observe that some people who have a position of responsibility, they make others do the work and then they take credit. They don't even acknowledge and they don't treat them nicely. So you see the contrast when you just observe, and then you kind of also observe who you want to follow. And be inspired by that. The ones who are leading by example and uplifting the ones who are under their care, not just keeping them down.
You see, Srila Prabhupada was a great example of that. So he led from the front, especially in those early days. He was doing everything, inspiring all those around him, even cooking for the devotees and things like that. So he was very involved. And it's very inspiring when you have a leader who's very involved and also gives credit to those around him and inspires those around him. That's it. Srila Prabhupada ki.